talking before we went live, there's no one book on AI that matters. You got to have a bunch of them. You've read some of these, I know, and you've kind of engaged a little bit. What are some of the things you've learned from doing some reading on AI that's like blowing your mind?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you, Halson. We want to
Yeah.
hear you.
Um, yeah, I think I think what I'm seeing more often now with AI is really the AI around AI agents.
Hmm.
And there was recently a study done where they created a framework for human agency and how they interact with AI. So it's like levels 1 through 5. One being you need full human participation, and 5 being you don't need it anymore. And they mapped out basically those 4 levels, and what they found was about 40% of Y Combinator AI startups are automating jobs that people have a low desire to be automated, and a high capability. So it's about half the startup market is automating jobs that people don't want automated. So yeah, definitely leaning into the augmentation piece and choosing where we put our money is going to be big in shaping what the future of AI looks like.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating. Well, Randy, this is an important book. We want to welcome you as you get ready to talk about abundance from Ezra Klein, Derek Thompson. And thank you so much for your work and for being with us. And we always all benefit so much from these book briefings. So we want to turn it over to you and let you teach us.
Mike, a couple of things before we begin. Good morning, everybody. We're in morning in Texas. Mike, what we forgot to ask this. What time do you want me to end?
Um, uh, Central Time by 11:45.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Housen mentioned the agents, and there is a book called Super Agency: What Could Possibly Go Right with Our AI Future, written by Reid Hoffman, who was the head guy at LinkedIn. So that's a book that kind of is worth reading if you think about the agents of AI, these AI agents. And it doesn't tell you how to use one, but it talks about the coming plethora of agents. So Housen, that's really a sharp comment. And yeah, it's a big deal. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I'm going to share the screen. So if you'll get ready to look on the screen for just a moment, you will see book covers of 6 books. And I have put in the chat, let me see if I have actually put it in the chat. I'll check after I quit sharing the screen. The link to the Financial Times Business Book of the Year, which is a prize, an award of £30,000. It's British. £30,000. All of the runners up get £5,000. And this is an award that's been given back since the year when The World is Flat was written by Thomas Friedman. That book won the first prize of the year. Here are the 6 shortlisted finalists, and they are House of Huawei, The Thinking Machine on Jensen Huang, NVIDIA, and the world's most coveted microchip, How Progress Ends, Technology, Innovation, and the Fate of Nations, Abundance, this is today's book, How We Build a Better Future by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson, and Breakneck, China's Quest to Engineer the Future by Dan Wang, and then Choke Points, How the Global Economy Become a Weapon of War. This is a big picture list, and I have presented synopses, briefings on The Thinking Machine, How Progress Ends, Abundance, and next month I am presenting Breakneck. So these are big, big books. Mike, you've taken your camera off. Can you put it back on and wave if you can hear me okay? You know that I like to do that. Okay, now you can hide again if you want to. All right, so I've shared that screen, and let me tell you that in the last few years, for that prize, AI and technology have been front and center. Here are some of the books that have won the prize in recent years, and you can get an article on Wikipedia that shows all of the shortlisted books and the winners each year. But in recent years, it's been Rise of the Robots by Martin Ford, great book, and that was kind of before the AI boom hit. And then Chip Wars, which is about the chips that will dominate. And that's where I first read about NVIDIA. And then there was a book called, I'm drawing a blank, but there was another one dealing with AI that won that prize. And then oh, I know what it was, Supremacy by Parmi Olson. And that was on Sam Altman and OpenAI and how they won the battle for AI. And then they took a diversion with Right Kind of Wrong about psychological safety and learning from your mistakes. And we don't know who will win this year. So I hope you've got the handout. I did put it in the chat. And this is a handout intensive presentation. And this book is big. It's a finalist for the Business Book of the Year. It has been talked about a lot. It's been talked about in political circles. And so I need to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Ezra Klein is known as a progressive columnist for the New York Times, but he takes the left to task every bit as much as he takes the right to task. And so if you'll look at the handout, we're going to start on the front page. We're going to work through it. Here we go. At the bottom of the top page, what is the point? We're acting as though scarcity is our future. We should be acting as though abundance will be our future. We should aim for a future of abundance. And so we want to, and if you want to just write down a phrase, write this phrase down, build things. We want to build things. And that's the abundance that they are talking about, that America has kind of quit building things. And I remember years ago, I don't think it was The World is Flat, but a later book by Thomas Friedman talked about how China got things built quickly. Here's something amazing. There is a city in China, I'm not sure I'll say it correctly, Sichuan, something like that, that now has a population of 17 million people. New York, in contrast, has 8 point something million. This city was about a million in the year 2020. And now, 2025, it is 17 million, more than twice the size of New York. So the idea of building things and building things that work and building things that look good. The CEO of Ford recently in an interview said that he had been driving for 6 months the best electric car from China just to see what it was like. And here's something he said. He said, I hated to give it up. So they're making big leaps, and we are not making those kinds of leaps except in the AI field, and that may lead to other leaps. So abundance is about how we need to build things. All right, at the top of the page, why is this book worth our time? Well, number one, this book provides a look at our history focused on what we built, accomplished, invented, and spread far and wide. America was the building nation. The key word in that sentence is was. Number two, this book provides a chronicle of how so much of this spirit has been lost, how much has gone wrong with our pursuit of abundance. And number three, this book is something of a chastising correction aimed specifically at liberals in this current moment, but some at conservatives. And chastising is an appropriate word. It's very critical. They're saying we have got to change things. If I remember at the end, I'm going to give you a footnote about kind of what this book's impact has been, but we'll wait till the end on that. All right, turn to page 2, the first inside page. And if you are by chance new to this presentation, here's what I do in my book briefings. First of all, you don't need to read the book. I've read the book and I prepare a pretty thorough handout. It's always better to read the book later if you decide to, but you can converse about this book intelligently if you pay attention to the handout. Number 2, during this part of the handout, this section, all of these statements come directly from the book. These are the best of my highlighted passages. And then when we get to the back of the book, you're going to see some statements in italics. Those also come directly from the book. And last of all, for example, here on page 2, number 11 is big font. A couple below that is bold. That is my emphasis. I'm saying these are key highlights, key quotes. So I'm putting the emphasis with the visual emphasis. All right, here we go. I'm going to read a bunch of them. We're going to move fast. Keep your pen handy. Circle, put stars, check marks, and we're going to go very fast. Number 1, for years, we accepted homelessness and poverty and untreated disease and declining life expectancy. We just couldn't do anything about it, so we accepted it. Number 2, for years, we failed to invent and implement technology that would make the world cleaner, healthier, and richer. I've got a personal observation here. If we can do something for less money, we do it even if it harms things. That's a reality. And so think about it this way. If you would like to help build the American economy and you would like to buy American, go to your closet and check all of the labels on your clothing and how many pieces of clothing have you bought made in America. We couldn't afford it. The shirts that I buy would be double and triple and even quadruple the price that I pay if I only bought shirts made in America. So we are willing to trade off money saved and in some ways convenience, even if it is harmful. Number 3, we say that we want to save the planet from climate change. But in practice, many Americans are dead set against the clean energy revolution. And that is a fact. Many Americans are dead set against that. And we won't get into a discussion of climate change right now, but that's an interesting observation. Number 4, we say that housing is a human right. But our richest cities, now this is a key element in the book, underline this. Our richest cities have made it excruciatingly difficult to build new homes. Oh my goodness, people do not want the kinds of homes built that would alleviate the cost and the housing crunch. Number 5, we say we want better health care, better medicine, more cures for terrible diseases, but we tolerate a system of research, funding, and regulation that pulls scientists away from their most promising work, denying millions of people the discoveries that might extend or improve their lives. And number 6, over the course of the 20th century, America developed a right that fought the government and a left that hobbled it. Put a star beside number 6 because that's their summary. There are 2 authors. That's their summary on what's happening. The right doesn't want big government, the political right, and the political left hobbles big government with regulations. And so that's the dilemma in this book. Number 7, supply is how much there is of something. Demand is how much of that thing people want. Supply and demand are linked. At least they are in the real world. In our politics, they have been cleaved. Democrats and Republicans divvied them up. It's a really interesting concept. All right, I read all of those at the beginning to give you a fast sense of what the book is saying. Now we're going to start skipping around quite a bit. Look at number 11. The results of a mistake we made are everywhere. In 1950, the median home price was 2.2 times the average annual income. If you made $10,000 in the year in 1950, the house cost $22,000. So that's how close it was. By 2020, it was 6 times the average annual income. There were people who used to burn their mortgages because they're paid their house off. Now that almost never happens. So just think about that. All right. Number 12, between 1999 and 2023, the average premium for employer-based family health insurance rose from $5,700 to $23,900. That's too many increases proportionally. Number 15, the difference between an economy that grows and an economy that stagnates is change. When you grow an economy, you hasten a future that is different. The more growth there is, the more radically the future diverges from the past. We have settled on a metaphor for growth that erases its most important characteristic. So let me pause here a minute. I wrote down on my handout the book title, How Progress Ends. That's one of those other 6 books that are finalists for the Financial Times Business Book of the Year. If you corner me and ask me what's the best book you've read this year, and I read a lot of books in a year, I present 2 new business books every month, and then 1 book on social justice every month, and then a few others that clients hire me to prepare. If you ask me the best book I've read this year, I think I go with How Progress Ends. It is a fascinating book about what happens in a country that makes decisions that stagnate their own progress. And this book, Abundance, is really an illustration of one of the principles in the book, How Progress Ends. So if any of you are serious readers, add How Progress Ends to your reading list. It's really worth reading. Okay, turn to page 3. Top of the page, number 16. What if, more than simply meeting the great challenges of our time, for climate change to inequality to aging, we went far beyond them, putting today's problems behind us like we did before with large predators and, for the most part, illness? What if, rather than having no sense of a different future, we decided history hadn't actually begun? What if we got serious about building an abundance and progress? Number 17, new technologies create new possibilities and allow us to solve once impossible problems. Number 18, the only reason we have even the barest hope of avoiding catastrophic warming is that the cost of solar power has fallen by 89%, and onshore wind costs by almost 70% in 10 years. Now, if you want to make a little note of this, write this down. AI, ChatGPT, and the other AI platforms have now discerned that they're going to need 10 gigawatts of power to run AI in the next few years. How big is 10 gigawatts? The state of Texas has 7.5 million households. It takes 10 gigawatts to run the electricity for 7.5 million households. In other words, we've got to get extra energy for AI, the equivalent of the entire state of Texas. Holy mackerel. So we've got to build new sources of energy. And the current really big hope on that is a new kind of smaller, more powerful, less deadly nuclear energy. So make a little note and read about the company Oklo, Oklo. Read about them later. And this is kind of one of the answers to this problem. But it turns out, get ready for this, as the price of solar power has gone down and wind power has gone down and now nuclear power is coming online, this year, planet Earth has used more coal generating energy than any other year ever. In other words, with all the progress we're making, we actually need much, much more overall energy. And that's what this is kind of talking about. All right, let's keep going. Page 3, drop down to number 23. It is folly to expect a coalition that does not share our goals to do the work to achieve them. It is more interesting to ask, as we will, why is it often easier to build renewable energy in red states than in blue states, despite Republican opposition to the cause of climate change? And it may have a little to do with regulations. Very interesting. Number 25. America lost its primacy in semiconductor innovation because much is learned in the making of things. We're talking about bringing chip making to the United States. But if you read between the lines, it's pretty much agreed upon that Taiwan has the expertise on chip making. So in the early days of the iPhone, it said on the back of each iPhone, designed in California, assembled in China. So California kind of invented it, created it, designed it, but it couldn't be built here. Well, now it's designed in California and it's built and assembled everywhere. So we've lost our edge in that. Look at number 28 on page 3. Walmart is famously frugal, maintaining its headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas, and insisting top executives locate there also. But when it wanted to enter e-commerce, it didn't pile software engineers into a new wing of its headquarters. Instead, it chose Brisbane, California, just 7 miles from downtown San Francisco, one of the most expensive labor markets in the world. Walmart saw what many tech executives see. If you want the best software products, you need to locate amid the best software engineers. And Walmart now trails only Amazon in annual online sales. All right, here is a principle that you can put it down. You want breakthrough thinking, get the best thinkers living together, close to each other, running into each other at the restaurant, seeing each other on the weekends, getting beers together after work. Detroit, more than 100 years ago, was the epicenter of building automobiles. Silicon Valley is the epicenter of technology breakthrough. And so even the places that have made progress have fallen back during the AI boom. Turn to page 4. Number 32. When you make legal training the default training for a political career, you make legal thinking the default thinking in politics. And legal thinking centers around statutory language and commitment to process, not results and outcomes. And so that other book that I'm presenting from the 6 books on the short list is called Breakneck: China's Quest to Engineer the Future. And what they say in Breakneck, the author says, is that China is a country of engineers and America, United States, is a country of lawyers. And that makes a difference. And that's really fascinating. And so they're writing about that right here in Abundance. Turn to page 5, top of the page, number 43. In 2009, several researchers compared a group of typical NIH grant recipients to scientists funded by the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. Whereas the NIH pays scientists for specific projects, HHMI, Howard Hughes Medical Institute, funds scientists without attaching strings to their research. They found that HHMI funding led to more flops, but also more hits, more original discoveries, and more high-impact articles. Put a few stars beside that one. Here's what it says. If you pay for research where you kind of want this outcome, you'll get some of it. But when you pay for research that says, go wherever your mind and research takes you, they'll make a lot of mistakes and a lot of things won't hit, but their breakthroughs will be bigger and more numerous. That's really fascinating. And in the book, How Progress Ends, there are accounts of that, for example, from France versus the United States in a different era. All right, number 45, burned by regulations and inattention to cost-effective production, basic elevators cost 4 times more in New York City than in Switzerland. Too many regulations. Number 47, 30 years ago, a group at the University of Texas developed next-generation technology to create lithium iron phosphate batteries, which car companies need for the top-performing electric vehicles. But in the early 2020s, no American company knew how to manufacture those batteries at scale. And China held a monopoly on the market. All right, here's a finding in this book. In America, we come up with the ideas, we know they work, we don't build them. And that's a problem. And so that's an example of this premise. All right, number 49, in the last 70 years, we have too often followed the same playbook. Invent, but don't implement. That's what I was just talking about. Number 52, again and again in American history, we seem to be at our very best when things are at their very worst. And so we do make progress in a faster way when we have a crisis, a massive, significant crisis. Number 53, for example, few people expected synthetic mRNA, an idea that had languished in the wilderness of academia, to match up so perfectly with the spiky crowns of a novel coronavirus. Sorry, I should have practiced my pronunciation. The serendipity of science is one reason why it's so important to untether research from politics and allow scientists to seek the truth freely without spending half their time deluged by bureaucratic paperwork and paralyzed by fear that their ideas might diverge from the moment's conventional wisdom. In other words, too much government regulation and oversight squelches breakthrough. Now, let me pause. That's not the fault of government regulation and oversight. It is any regulation and oversight. It can come from the top echelons of an organization or company. In the book, How Progress Ends, they have a section that describes how if you have a research department in a company trying to do breakthrough research, it works better if the researchers are untethered from any company. Now, if you're developing better ways to do what's already been proven, the research department is great. But breakthrough, you need to be untethered. So these are fascinating concepts. Page 6, number 55. We've got about 5 more of these to read. Number 55. It was a competition over whose philosophy of government would produce the best outcomes for people. Eisenhower needed to prove that he could take better care of his ordinary citizens than the leaders of Soviet communism could provide for theirs. Most of us are way too young to know this. Nikita Khrushchev took his shoe and banged it on a table at the United Nations, and he was the leader of the Soviet Union, and he said, "We will bury you," to the West. Well, he wasn't talking about a war. He was talking about economic advantage. So that meant, I'm reading now, embracing the policies of Roosevelt and the Democrats, who had succeeded in raising America's living standards after the Great Depression. We had to build things better than the Soviet Union could. It was a true international contest. Number 57. For a political order to triumph, it must have a narrative, a story it tells about the good life. This is what we believe. This is what we're doing. It is working. That's the narrative. Number 61, the word abundance, the title of this book, speaks of a cornucopia, all good things for everybody. Let me pause. In the AI arena, there are AI doomers. AI is going to wipe us all out. And the experts in AI, about 20% of them are close to the doomer end of the spectrum. And 80% are boomers, not baby boomers, but they believe the AI boom is going to make everything better. Well, this book doesn't deal with AI, but it is a boomer book. Abundance is going, the idea to build things and to move forward is going to build good things for everybody. Number 63, what we are proposing is less of a set of policy solutions than a new set of questions around which our politics should revolve. What is scarce and what should be abundant? What is difficult to build that should be easy? What inventions do we need that we do not yet have? And number 67, just to get it, in 1817, William Cobbett, a British writer, wrote of the American diet that such an abundance is spread before you that you instantly lose all restraint. Don't get me near a buffet. So that's the idea. All right, turn to page 7. Here are the thesis quotes of the book. This book is dedicated to a simple idea. To have the future we want, we need to build and invent more of what we need. That's it. That's the thesis. I love it when authors actually write a thesis sentence. That one from the book tells you what the book is about. We call for a correction. We believe that we can build, what we can build is more important than what we can buy. There is a word that describes the future we want, abundance. And the abundance we envision is not indiscriminate. It is not an omnidirectional moreness. We take inspiration from People of Plenty, the historian David Potter's brilliant 1954 book on how abundance shaped American thought and culture. Abundance is a physical and cultural factor. involving the interplay between man himself, a geological force, and nature. All right. In our last few minutes, we're going to go through the major points and principles of the book. At the top of page 8, I've already mentioned Ezra Klein is a columnist for the New York Times. He has regular interview podcasts that are transcribed. There's one either yesterday or today on the front page of the New York Times. Derek Thompson is a staff writer for The Atlantic, and I had read him for years. And they admit and acknowledge and identify, self-identify, we are both liberals in the American tradition. That's in italics, that's from the book. One point to understand clearly, this is a book that takes the left to task time and again, primarily over the left's desire and success at demanding what they call over-regulation. So a future with abundance. Let's think about cities. New York leads the world in finance. San Francisco and Silicon Valley lead the world in technology. And New York tried to take over the Silicon Valley crown on technology. It did not work. Where New York City, I'm reading here, it's in italics, it's from the book, has seen technological success is where code serves finance. OpenAI is not far from Anthropic, two big AI firms, which is a quick drive to Google, now ever more in AI, which is located near Meta, near AI, which the book does not say, but those are all near NVIDIA. Every technological big company is close to each other, all not much more than a golf shot from Steve Jobs' famous garage. So that's where it all happened. In practice, the frontier of ideas is best breached by people, I'm reading, who know each other well and work with each other closely, and who move between different companies with different cultures and specialties smoothly. Let me make a comment to those of you on this event. You work for a city. The more you hang out with people who work for other cities, especially cities doing things well, the more the ideas collide with each other, the more progress you make. You've got to expose yourself to massive numbers of ideas from people who are cutting edge. There's a book called Where Good Ideas Come From. You know where they come from? People with lots of ideas. One way you ought to use AI is you ought to say, here's my job, brainstorm with me 10 things that I could do that would make me better at my job and give me breakthrough possibilities. Do a lot of brainstorming with AI. That's off the topic here. All right. The money, I'm now reading again. The money you save in rent doesn't make up for the talent and knowledge that dissipate over distance. Remote work is a powerful force, but the centripetal power of the city is stronger, more people interacting. Cities play two roles. They are engines of innovation and engines of mobility. Next, we need to grow. We need more growth in housing for people, especially. The Austin metro area led the nation in housing permits in 2020. Excuse me, permitting 18 new homes for every 1,000 residents. Los Angeles and San Francisco permitted only 2.5 units compared to 18 per 1,000 residents. There's a problem for California. It really is a shortage of houses. There are not enough houses. A number of cities with high rates of poverty, Detroit, Miami, Dallas, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, have low rates of homelessness. So what does explain homelessness? The availability and cost of housing. As the cost of rent rises, so too does the number of homeless. We need to build. What we are leaders in is the cost of public construction. We shouldn't be. The cost of building a mile of interstate highway tripled in the back half of the 20th century. The highways built since 2010 are far more expensive than highway projects anywhere else in the world. We need to govern. After that disaster shut down I-95, Shapiro signed a declaration of emergency that exempted the rebuilding process from the rules and requirements that slow so many public projects down. Speed was the key element here, the priority here. Look at the bottom of this section. Whether government is bigger or smaller is the wrong question. It needs to be better. It needs to justify itself, not through the rules it follows, but through the outcomes it delivers. Are things being built? Page 9, top of the page, we need to invent. The bold quote, at the highest levels, American science has become biased against the very thing that drives its progress, the art of taking bold risks. And then I've got a sidebar about the Bell Labs, and now that I've read How Progress Ends, the Bell Labs had great breakthrough. But it turns out that once there is too much control, you need more freedom than even the Bell Labs had. So we need more Bell Labs and more freedom groups not under such authority. And then last of all, this is big, we need to deploy. A regrettable feature of history is that progress often requires the focusing mechanism of disaster. Penicillin took a world war, and mRNA vaccines took a plague. Once we have the idea, we have to build it. That's the point of this book. Turn to page 10, the last page. On the left, I don't often do this, but it's worth just listening to the table of contents. Beyond scarcity, grow, build, govern, invent, deploy toward abundance. And my 6 lessons and takeaways. Number 1, what we did may be more impressive than what we are doing. What we were may be more impressive than what we are. We built things. Number 2, what is done with good intentions can have unfortunate, even destructive ripple effects over the long haul. All regulations were developed with good intentions, but then they faded. Number 3, there is no better future without investment. You got to invest in the future. Number 4, there is no better future without risk, without the freedom to try and fail again and again. We're not smart enough to know only the things that will work before they're tried. Number 5, we are doing things that make progress, a future of abundance, too difficult, if not practically impossible. We need to identify what these things are, and we need to change. And number 6, we do have the capabilities and the technological tools. We should all embrace the possibility of a future of abundance. Well, that's the book Abundance by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson. I said I had a footnote. In political circles, they're saying that the word abundance has not caught on. That somehow people are not jazzed about aiming for a future of abundance. And so we got to figure out a way to talk about building with a word that works. And I don't have the answer to that. Well, that's the presentation. Mike Mowry, back to you.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Randy. You know, as while you were sharing, I kept thinking this is a book that I think a lot of boards and councils, elected officials would really benefit from hearing a presentation on, because these are some things that they really struggle with for sure. And I think that word could be flourishing. The abundance might not be the word, but I hear people talk about, societies and populations that flourish. And
Yeah.
that certainly resonates with me. So great job. And one more just footnote I want to say, you mentioned this need for um, local government employees to interact with each other. And I just want to say, those are some of the things we really feel strongly about at SGR and AFI. That's one of the things that happens through the TLG conference. It's also one of the things we'll be doing later this year and all through 2026 and beyond with regional lunch and learns, where a city will be the host. SGR will help convene people. We'll have opportunity for you to network, a short kind of informal program, but a chance to be around a lot of great ideas. And so many of you will be hearing a lot more about that. And Randy Mayeux might be a part of some of those as well. So, Randy, thank you so much. I hope everyone you enjoyed this, and we wish you all the best. Thank you, Lisa, for your work behind the scenes. And Randy, last comment.
Yeah, you and I have not picked out a book for next month. And so I'll just say that that means when we don't pick out a book, it's going to be the Illustrated History of Professional Wrestling. That's the book for next month. That's a
Or it could
joke.
be why the Dallas Cowboys will win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
But
we'll
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 just
pick
have to
out a
toss it
good
back.
book and let you know for next month.
All right. Thanks so much.